What if positivity isn't something you're born with, but something you consciously create? We often believe a positive life depends on external circumstances, but what if the real power lies in how you interpret every moment? In this video, you'll discover how shifting your inner lens transforms your emotions, your relationships, and your entire reality. If you're someone who values wisdom, truth, and self-discovery, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Echoes of the Mind, where thought meets truth. 1. The hidden power of a positive lens, expanded version. Most people move through life believing their emotions are shaped by what happens to them. A bad day creates a bad mood. An argument ruins the week. A rejection destroys their confidence. But here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not the world that defines your emotions. It's the lens you use to interpret it. Marcus Aurelius understood this 2,000 years ago when he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He wasn't being poetic. He was revealing a psychological mechanism we're only now proving with modern neuroscience. Your mind filters reality before you ever experience it. Think of your perception like tinted glasses. If the lenses are cracked with fear, insecurity, or bitterness, you'll interpret even neutral moments as threats. Someone not replying to your message becomes rejection. A coworker's expression becomes judgment. A small inconvenience becomes a personal attack from the universe. But here's the twist. Your lens is rarely chosen consciously. Most people inherit it. You inherit it from childhood, from the emotional climate of your home, from the voices that praised you or broke you, from the culture that taught you what to expect from life. Nietzsche once said that, "We hear only those questions for which we are prepared to find answers." In the same way, we see only the world our lens is prepared to reveal. Imagine two people walking a mountain path. One sees danger in every loose stone, convinced the world is out to make them fall. The other sees the same stones as reminders to be present, signposts teaching awareness. Same path, same reality, different lens, different life. The power of perception becomes even clearer when you look at history. Take Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist. In the darkest conditions imaginable, he observed something astonishing. Some prisoners emotionally collapsed while others, though equally starved and suffering, found meaning in tending to others, sharing scraps of food, or holding on to a vision of life after liberation. Frankl realized the mind has a freedom no oppression can destroy, the freedom to choose how to interpret a moment. But let's be honest, this idea isn't comforting at first. If your lens shapes your reality, then many of your struggles aren't caused by life. They're caused by your interpretations of life. That's a difficult truth to face. It means you might be the one amplifying your own suffering. It means your negativity may not be a reflection of truth, but a reflection of training, patterns you didn't choose, but now carry. Plato illustrated this perfectly with his allegory of the cave. The prisoners didn't see the real world. They saw shadows cast on the wall. And because they had never questioned their lens, they believed the shadows were reality. In the same way, if you never question your thoughts, you mistake your interpretations for truth. Machiavelli, often misunderstood as a cynic, actually warned leaders about this same phenomenon. He observed that two rulers could face identical circumstances, war, crisis, betrayal, and yet one collapses while the other thrives, simply because each interprets adversity through a different internal narrative. Psychologists call this cognitive framing. Your brain constantly tries to make sense of the world, and unless you intervene, it defaults to old stories, automatic fears, and inherited beliefs. Here's a simple example. When a friend cancels plans, what's your first thought? They don't value me. They must be overwhelmed. Great, now I have time to rest. Three interpretations, three different emotional realities, one event. This is why two people can live through the same breakup. One becomes shattered, the other becomes stronger. One sees it as abandonment, the other sees it as redirection. Life didn't change, meaning did. And here's the most liberating insight of all. Your lens is not fixed. You can reshape it. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Stoic thinkers trained themselves to reinterpret every challenge as an opportunity for virtue. Nietzsche encouraged the idea of amor fati, loving your fate, not resisting it. Bonhoeffer wrote that the way you respond to suffering reveals the strength of your inner world. Modern psychology confirms this. Reframing your thoughts literally rewires neural pathways. Your brain becomes more flexible, more resilient, more capable of seeing possibility where it once saw danger. But none of this happens by accident. You must intentionally choose a new lens. A lens where mistakes become lessons. A lens where rejection becomes redirection. A lens where setbacks become training grounds. A lens where every moment, even the painful ones, is interpreted in a way that moves you forward instead of breaking you down. Because positivity isn't delusion. It isn't pretending life is perfect. It's refusing to let your interpretations destroy your potential. The world is not as it is. The world is as you are. And when you change the lens, you don't just change how you see life. You change the life you are able to live. Stick around until the very end so you don't miss a single insight this video has to reveal. 2. Why positivity feels difficult. At first, positivity doesn't feel natural in the beginning, not because you're broken, but because your mind is ancient. You are carrying a brain shaped by millions of years of survival, not a few decades of modern life. Nietzsche described this as the weight of inherited instincts, a reminder that most of what we feel isn't new, it's ancestral. Long before cities, deadlines, or relationships, your nervous system evolved to scan for threats, not blessings. And that wiring still lives inside you. Imagine your mind as an old fortress. Its walls weren't built for joy. They were built to detect danger. Every rustle in the grass meant a predator. Every unknown face could mean harm. Your ancestors survived by assuming the worst, so you could exist today. This is why one negative comment sticks longer than 10 compliments. Why doubt feels louder than hope. Why a small problem can hijack your entire day. Your brain is an alarm system disguised as a personality. Plato hinted at this in his allegory of the cave. People mistake the shadows on the wall for truth because stepping into the light is unfamiliar and frightening. Positivity is that light. Negativity is the familiar shadow you've stared at your entire life. It feels safer, even if it's painful, because your mind prefers what is predictable over what is peaceful. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Your brain doesn't care if you're happy. It cares if you're prepared. It will overthink to protect you. Imagine a guard pacing all night, checking every door, rehearsing every possible disaster. That's your brain's legacy. Stress tightens your focus like a spotlight, trapping you in narrow thinking. One worry becomes a tunnel. One fear becomes a universe. Bonhoeffer once wrote that the greatest temptation is despair, not because despair is pleasurable, but because it is familiar. We fall into negative thinking the same way people return to toxic habits. It feels like home. Even misery can become a comfort zone when it's all you've known. Your past experiences deepen this wiring. A childhood rejection can echo into adulthood, shaping how you interpret silence, conflict, or love. The subconscious mind collects every fear, every disappointment, every unhealed memory, and replays them like a broken soundtrack. So when you try to think positively, it feels like swimming upstream against a river that has been flowing for decades. And society doesn't help. Modern life is built to overstimulate: notifications, news cycles, constant comparison. Your brain is overloaded with signals that trigger primitive stress responses. Machiavelli once observed that humans judge more with their eyes than with their intelligence, meaning we are easily swayed by what we see. The digital world amplifies this flaw. You compare your internal battles to everyone else's highlight reels, and your mind defaults to inadequacy. This is why positivity feels like a lie when you start. You're not only challenging thoughts, you're challenging biology. You're not just changing habits, you're rewriting instincts. But here's the twist. The very same brain that clings to negativity is also capable of extraordinary transformation. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, is the modern scientific confirmation of what ancient philosophers already sensed. Marcus Aurelius believed that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, but neuroscience now reveals the same truth in biological terms. Every positive thought, every moment of gratitude, every mindful breath literally reshapes neural pathways. Think of your mind as a forest. Negative thoughts are the old, deeply carved trails. You walk them without thinking. Positivity is the new path, overgrown, unfamiliar, difficult to follow. The first few times it feels slow and unnatural, but each time you choose that new direction, the trail becomes clearer. The old path begins to fade. Eventually, positivity becomes easier, not because your life changes, but because your brain does. This is the great secret no one tells you. Positivity isn't a personality trait, it's a trained skill. And every skill feels awkward before it feels powerful. You're not failing when positivity feels hard. You're evolving. You're breaking patterns older than history. You're pushing against instincts designed for survival, not fulfillment. And the moment you choose not to obey your negative wiring, even for a second, you win a battle your ancestors never could. Positivity feels difficult at first because you're stepping out of the cave, rewriting your instincts, and reclaiming your inner freedom. And like all beginnings, it feels uncomfortable, right up until the moment it becomes natural. Three simple shifts that elevate. You don't need a dramatic life overhaul to change your emotional reality. Often, the smallest shifts carry the greatest power. A single thought questioned, a single breath taken with intention, a single moment of awareness can alter the trajectory of an entire day. It sounds almost too simple, but simplicity has always been the birthplace of transformation. Even the Stoics knew this. Epictetus taught that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. Sometimes the only thing standing between chaos and clarity is the lens you choose to look through in the next 30 seconds. Consider this. Most people live their lives reacting automatically. A negative thought appears, and they follow it as if it were a command. A stressful moment occurs, and their entire mood collapses. They never pause to question whether their first emotional impulse is actually true. But the mind is like a storyteller who exaggerates for dramatic effect. It predicts danger even where none exists. It assumes the worst to protect you, but often this protection becomes a prison. This is where the first shift begins. Catch the thought the moment it arises. Don't obey it. Don't swallow it whole. Ask it a simple but powerful question. Is this a fact or a feeling? This one pause interrupts the subconscious pattern. It creates a tiny gap between stimulus and response. That sacred space Viktor Frankl famously said contains your freedom. In that gap, the day can change. You can change. Imagine you're walking into work and someone barely greets you. Instantly, the mind may whisper, they're upset with you. You did something wrong. In reality, maybe they slept poorly, or they're dealing with their own private storm. The negativity bias hijacks your interpretation before the truth even arrives. But if you pause and question it, you regain control. You choose clarity over assumption. It's a micro victory, but like Plato said, the first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. That self isn't your identity. It's the chaotic, unexamined impulses that run your inner world. Another shift, gratitude, deliberate, daily, microscopic gratitude. Not the cliche version people talk about online, but the grounded kind that rewires your neural pathways. When you write down just three things you're grateful for, no matter how small, you're training your brain to scan for what's working instead of what's missing. Neuroscience calls this directed attention. Philosophy calls it cultivating virtue. But in practical life, it's reteaching your mind where to look. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Your mind is already scanning for something. If you don't deliberately guide it, it will default to fear, scarcity, or irritation. Gratitude is not mere positivity. It's a recalibration of mental gravity. It pulls your awareness upward, even subtly, even slowly, until you begin seeing life with more accuracy and less emotional distortion. Then there's the power of 10 seconds of mindful breathing. 10 seconds, that's all? People underestimate it because it's too easy, too quiet, too unimpressive. But watch what happens when you stop mid-stress and give your breath your full attention. Your heart rate lowers. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for clarity, reasoning, calm, switches back online. Stress shrinks. Awareness expands. The present moment becomes reachable again. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler who cannot rule himself is destined to fail. The same is true internally. If you cannot influence your emotional state, the world will influence it for you. Mindful breathing is not spiritual fluff. It's inner leadership. It's you taking command without force, through calm, through presence. Let's add an unexpected twist most people never realize. You don't need to feel positive to act positively. This is one of life's most liberating secrets. Behavior often precedes emotion. The Stoics practice this as a discipline. Act with virtue even when your heart feels heavy. Modern psychology agrees. Behavioral activation can uplift mood more effectively than waiting for motivation to appear. So take a walk even if your mind resists. Clean your room even if your thoughts feel scattered. Speak gently to yourself even if you don't fully believe your own words yet. These micro-actions carve new emotional pathways. They make positivity feel possible again. Each small shift, questioning thoughts, practicing gratitude, mindful breathing, intentional action, may seem insignificant alone, but together, they become a compass, a quiet force that redirects the entire tone of your day and eventually your life. Because the truth is, your mindset doesn't change all at once. It changes in the seconds you thought didn't matter. The tiny moments when no one is watching, the inner choices that feel too small to count, but count more than anything. 4. Building a positive internal voice. Your inner voice is the narrator of your entire existence. Yet most people never stop to ask who is doing the talking. Is it you? Or is it an echo of old wounds, past failures, and borrowed opinions from people who never understood your potential in the first place? This is the uncomfortable truth. Your inner voice is rarely born from your true self. It is shaped by the criticism you absorbed as a child, the failures that stung more deeply than you admitted, the teachers who dismissed you, the relationships that taught you to shrink. It becomes a collage of judgments, fears, and assumptions, and then convinces you that every word it says is truth. Machiavelli once wrote that, "The mind sees only what it is prepared to see." That applies inward too. A mind trained to expect disappointment becomes its own tyrant. A mind trained to anticipate possibility becomes its own liberator. Your inner voice is not fate, it is conditioning. And conditioning can be rewritten. Think of it like a fortress built over many years. Stone by stone, your thoughts have constructed walls that protect you, but also imprison you. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The things you think determine the quality of your mind." In other words, your inner world becomes the architecture of your destiny. If the voice inside you always whispers, "You're not enough, you might fail, people will judge you," then every step in life feels like walking barefoot across broken glass. But imagine replacing that voice with one that speaks like a wise mentor, calm, steady, and grounded in truth rather than fear. This shift begins with compassion, not force. Most people try to silence their negative voice by attacking it. Why am I like this? Why can't I be confident? Why do I think so negatively? But that only strengthens the critic. Nietzsche once said, "He who fights monsters must take care that he does not become a monster." Fighting your inner critic with more criticism turns you into the very thing you're trying to escape. Instead, you train your inner voice the way a great teacher trains a student, with patience, clarity, and consistent guidance. Start by observing your thoughts as if they belong to someone else. When a harsh thought appears, you always mess things up. Pause and ask, who taught me to speak to myself this way? Whose voice does this actually sound like? Most people are shocked to realize the voice they obey daily isn't theirs at all. Then comes the reconstruction. Affirmations, when used correctly, are not cliché. They are repetitions that carve new neural pathways. But the magic isn't in saying, I am strong. The magic is in saying it consistently enough that your brain begins to believe it more than the old narrative. Psychology calls this self-directed neuroplasticity, the conscious rewiring of thought patterns. Visualization works the same way. When you picture the version of yourself who is calm, confident, grounded, you're not fantasizing. You're giving your brain a blueprint. Your mind always seeks alignment between what you imagine and how you behave. Bonhoeffer once observed that the greatest acts of courage begin invisibly, as private internal decisions made long before they are expressed outwardly. Your inner voice shapes those invisible decisions. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Your inner voice can become your greatest ally, but only if you teach it how to speak. Imagine waking up and hearing a voice inside you say, "You've survived worse than this. You are growing. You are capable. Today you move one step further." Imagine facing a challenge and your inner voice reminds you, "This is not the end. This is a beginning disguised as resistance." Imagine failing at something and immediately hearing, "Good, now we know where to grow next." That is what it feels like when your inner voice becomes a partner rather than a prison guard. Plato believed that mastering the inner self was the highest form of victory. Modern psychology agrees. When your inner voice aligns with your goals, when it supports your potential rather than sabotages it, motivation stops being forced. You no longer need to push yourself. Instead, your actions flow naturally, powered by an internal current of certainty. Your inner voice is already shaping your life. The question is it building you or breaking you? Rewrite it, and you rewrite your destiny. 5. Living a life rooted in positivity. Expanded version. Positivity isn't a fleeting feeling. It is a deliberate, cultivated lifestyle. Many people chase happiness like a mirage, hoping it will appear when circumstances align. But history and philosophy teach a different story. Your internal world is far more powerful than external conditions. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, reminds us in Meditations, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The foundation of any truly fulfilling life is not luck, comfort, or circumstance. It is the disciplined design of your environment, routines, and mindset. Imagine a garden. You can't expect wild weeds to yield roses. You must choose what to plant, how to nourish it, and which harmful elements to remove. Your daily surroundings function the same way. Machiavelli, often cited for political cunning, actually observed a subtle truth about human behavior. The environment molds the individual more than willpower alone. If you live in chaos, negativity, or constant criticism, it seeps into your thoughts and actions like water into soil. But when you intentionally craft spaces that radiate clarity, calm, and inspiration, your mind naturally adopts those qualities. Consider your home, workspace, even your social circles. Do they reinforce distraction, stress, and doubt? Or do they lift you toward reflection, focus, and optimism? The Stoics would argue, as Aurelius did, that external events are indifferent. It is your perception shaped by the surrounding atmosphere that determines whether your day flourishes or flounders. This principle extends to relationships. Every person you spend significant time with functions as a mirror and a filter for your energy. Social psychologists confirm that moods and behaviors are contagious. Your energy responds unconsciously to those around you. Therefore, connecting with people who elevate rather than drain, who challenge you constructively instead of breaking you down, is not a luxury. It is survival for your mental equilibrium. Nietzsche would remind us that you become the company you keep, and to surround yourself with cynicism or envy is to risk internalizing those same shadows. Routines are equally critical. Tiny habits like morning journaling, focused breathing, gratitude reflections, or a deliberate walk in nature accumulate like compounding interest, gradually fortifying your inner landscape. Cognitive science shows that repeated positive actions rewire neural pathways, creating default mental states of resilience and clarity. You are, quite literally, sculpting your mind with each deliberate choice. Yet here's the uncomfortable truth. These small actions are often the hardest to sustain because they are invisible. Their effects are subtle, slow, and intangible. Our culture prioritizes dramatic outcomes, instant gratification, and visible rewards. But true transformation, emotional, mental, and spiritual, rarely arrives with fanfare. It arrives quietly in moments when you choose clarity over complaint, curiosity over judgment, and love over fear. Positivity, then, is not an emotion you stumble into. It is a discipline you practice. Like a skilled archer, you aim your mind with precision at the targets of clarity, gratitude, and constructive action. Marcus Aurelius would say that each choice is an opportunity to strengthen your character. Every intentional act of reframing a thought, adjusting your surroundings, or nurturing uplifting relationships is a stroke in the sculpture of your inner life. Over time, these small strokes reveal a masterpiece, a mind capable of equanimity, a heart aligned with resilience, and a life radiating quiet power. And here's a twist most people resist. Cultivating positivity doesn't mean avoiding pain, struggle, or conflict. Nietzsche argued that suffering is the crucible in which greatness forms. Stoics teach that obstacles are opportunities to practice virtue. When you root your life in positivity, you don't become blind to challenges. You gain the lens to navigate them skillfully without being consumed. Positivity becomes not naive optimism, but the resilient engine powering every meaningful transformation. Ultimately, living a life rooted in positivity is an act of rebellion against the default human tendency to react, complain, and be shaped passively by circumstance. It's a conscious claim to authorship over your inner world, a daily choice to craft clarity, cultivate energy, and radiate influence. Every ritual, environment, and relationship you curate is a tool in this practice. Over time, this deliberate life becomes the foundation of enduring inner peace, sustainable motivation, and the quiet yet unstoppable force behind every accomplishment that truly matters. Your life is your canvas. Will you let it be painted by chaos, stress, and passive reaction? Or will you, like the great thinkers of history, design each brushstroke with intention, creating a masterpiece of mental clarity, emotional resilience, and positive energy that radiates into everything you do? Positivity is not a feeling. It is your daily discipline, your crafted environment, your chosen company, your sculpted mind. Master it, and your inner world, and by extension your reality, will transform. In the end, your mind is the architect of your reality, and every thought is a brick. Build with fear, and you create a prison. Build with awareness, gratitude, and courage, and you create a life worth waking up to. The shift starts within you, in minutes, in choices so small they seem invisible, until everything changes.